He had built everything from the ground up: success, respect, a mansion that stood as proof of what perseverance could create. But that night, as he pulled up to his own gates, none of it mattered. The guards didn't see a CEO coming home. They saw a man who didn't belong. Their hands hovered near their weapons, their eyes full of doubt. And before he could even speak, they told him to step back, to prove he wasn't an intruder at the house he owned. What unfolded next wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a reminder of how easily dignity can be stripped away, even by those meant to protect it. But what happened when the system finally spoke for him changed everything. For most people, Friday nights meant escape, a chance to leave work behind. For Mr. Carter, they were quieter. He liked to drive the long way home, windows down, letting the city lights blur past like memories of everything he'd overcome. From a one-bedroom apartment to running a multi-million-dollar firm, every mile told his story. He wasn't supposed to make it this far, they said, but he had. And tonight, he was simply heading home, to the mansion he designed, to the peace he'd earned. The neighborhood was still, manicured lawns glistening under streetlights. His gate appeared at the end of the drive, tall and elegant, a symbol of arrival. But as he slowed to a stop, he noticed something different. 3 guards by the entrance. New faces, rigid stances, eyes that didn't recognize him, or didn't want to. He smiled, expecting a nod of respect. Instead, one of them stepped forward, hand hovering near his holster. The look wasn't welcome. It was warning. He had seen that look before, in boardrooms, in elevators, on sidewalks lined with suspicion. But never here, never at his own home. And when he rolled down his window, ready to explain, he didn't know that what waited beyond those gates would test everything he thought success could protect him from. What happened next would turn that quiet driveway into a stage the world would soon be watching. The night air was calm, the kind that usually wrapped around him like comfort after long days spent navigating rooms where he was always the only one who looked like him. Mr. Carter cut the engine and stepped out, keys in hand, the soft chirp of his car locking echoing in the quiet cul-de-sac. He barely made it 2 steps toward the gate before the first voice broke through. Sharp, commanding, unfamiliar. "Sir, stop right there." He paused, surprised. The guard closest to the keypad squared his shoulders, hands still resting on his holster. Another stepped forward, scanning him up and down. No greeting, no recognition, just suspicion. Carter's eyes flicked toward the new keypad system installed a month ago, part of the advanced AI security network his company had designed. He almost smiled at the irony. They didn't know they were standing in front of technology that literally carried his signature. "I live here," he started, calm but firm. But calm meant nothing. His words fell flat against disbelief carved deep in their eyes. One guard motioned toward the gate. "Residents use a remote access app. You didn't come through the system." "I didn't need to," Carter replied quietly, lifting the small leather case on his shoulder, the one holding the encrypted access fob. But they didn't look at it. They only saw the man. Behind them, a woman emerged from a white SUV, dressed sharply, phone in hand, heels striking pavement like a metronome of judgment, the head of the neighborhood association. Her expression hardened when she saw him. "He doesn't belong here," she said to the guards, not even glancing at him. "We've had reports of suspicious activity. Handle it. Handle it." The words carried weight, unspoken permission. Carter felt his chest tighten, but he stayed still. He'd been here before, in meetings where colleagues mistook him for the delivery guy, in hotels where staff questioned his reservation. Each time, he learned silence could be louder than protest. But tonight, silence tasted different, bitter, heavy. The younger guard took a step closer. "I'm asking for ID, sir." Carter met his gaze. "You're standing in front of it." The guard frowned, confused. And then, as if to answer him, the gate system hummed to life. A mechanical voice, neutral, precise, spoke through the speaker. Owner profile detected. "Welcome home, Mr. Carter." The woman in white froze. The guards exchanged looks. But disbelief was quicker than reason. "Glitch in the system," one muttered, waving it off. "Doesn't prove anything." Carter's calm never broke, but inside, something burned, an ache he'd carried for years, flaring in the face of yet another denial of identity. A mansion built from his blood and brilliance, yet he still had to prove he belonged. The woman crossed her arms. "Real owners don't show up dressed like that," she sneered. The comment sliced through the quiet. Even the guards shifted awkwardly, but none spoke up. The gate beeped again, this time louder. The red light above the keypad turned green, followed by a chime. "Secondary verification complete," the system announced. "Access granted." Still, the guards didn't move. One held up a hand. "Step back, sir. We can't let you in until we confirm with management." Carter exhaled slowly, gripping the strap of his bag. Every word they threw at him was another reminder that to them, no amount of success, no title, no wealth could erase the color of his skin. The woman's voice rose again, sharper now. "Call the police. We're not taking chances." Carter looked at her, then at the guards. His jaw tightened, but his voice remained even. "You're about to make a mistake that will follow you for the rest of your careers." No one moved. The youngest guard finally reached for his cuffs. That's when the system reacted. Lights along the driveway flared bright white, flooding the scene. A deep tone pulsed from hidden speakers. "Unauthorized use of force detected." The voice declared. The guards froze. One yanked his hand back like he'd touched fire. The woman stumbled a step, eyes wide. Phones lifted from the sidewalks, neighbors, joggers, delivery drivers, all drawn to the spectacle. Cameras began rolling. Carter didn't speak. He didn't need to. The house was speaking for him now. The guards' badges flickered red, then black. The keypad displayed a message: access suspended. Unauthorized personnel detected. Panic rippled through them. "System failure," one shouted. "It's locking us out." The crowd murmured louder. A teenager whispered into his live stream. "The house just called him the owner." Carter stood still, eyes steady, breathing even. Every humiliation, every time he'd been doubted or profiled, converged into this one moment. He had built a life where no one could question his worth. Yet here they were, trying anyway. And for the first time, he decided they wouldn't walk away unscathed. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and spoke quietly into it. "Nia, activate internal override. Westgate protocol." The system's voice returned, smoother, colder. "Command received. Employee identification required." One by one, the guards' names appeared on the keypad screen, then blinked red. "Access revoked." The woman's voice cracked. What did you just do?" Carter didn't answer. The hum of the gates filled the silence, mechanical and final. What the guards thought would control had just become their undoing. But the night wasn't finished teaching them who really held power behind those gates. The alarms pulsed through the night like a heartbeat, steady and unrelenting. Red light washed over the driveway, painting every face in shades of guilt and fear. Mr. Carter stood still, his frame calm amid the chaos, as if the storm had always been waiting for this moment to find him. The guards shouted over each other, fumbling with their radios, but the lines were dead. Their badges, once symbols of control, now blinked uselessly in the dark. The woman in white was unraveling. Her voice cracked as she pointed at him, desperate to reclaim power slipping through her fingers. "You can't do this. You're trespassing. You're lying." And but the house answered before he could. Owner identity verified. Security clearance terminated for unauthorized personnel. The robotic calm of the system made her words sound small. Around them, phones captured every second. The lights, the panic, the truth spilling out for the world to see. Carter's chest rose and fell slowly, but his eyes burned with something deeper than anger. It was exhaustion, the weight of every moment he'd been told he didn't belong. From being mistaken for an employee at his own company, to being watched in stores where his face adorned the product ads. Tonight, it had all converged at his front gate, under the glow of a system he'd built to make people feel safe. And still, they had looked at him and seen danger. The youngest guard stepped forward, trembling. "We were just doing our job." His voice cracked. "We didn't know." Carter turned to face him fully. "You didn't want to know." The air stilled. Even the crickets outside the hedges seemed to fall silent. The woman's anger morphed into something raw. Fear. She lunged toward the keypad, slamming her palm against it. "Reset the system," she screamed. But the display flashed one last line in cold, unflinching text. Access revoked. And then the gate began to move. The iron bars groaned as they swung open. Not for her, not for the guards, but for him. The motion was slow, deliberate, like the world itself was bending to correct a wrong. The crowd gasped. Someone shouted, "He's the owner!" Another whispered, "They just lost their jobs on live stream." Carter didn't speak. He stepped forward, each stride a verdict, each breath reclaiming space that was always his. The guard stepped back instinctively, fear replacing authority. The woman stumbled, eyes wide, face pale beneath the red light. When he reached the threshold, the system spoke once more. "Welcome home, Mr. Carter." It was more than a greeting. It was justice. Carter paused just inside the gate and turned, his voice low, but carrying the weight of everything that had just unfolded. "You looked at me and saw a threat, but I built this. Every line of code, every brick, every inch of this place. And even then you tried to erase me." No one answered. The woman stared at the ground. The guards lowered their eyes. Carter let the silence hang, then spoke the words that cut deeper than any system command. "You weren't protecting this home. You were protecting a lie." Behind him, the gate began to close, its slow grind echoing like a final judgment. The onlookers didn't move. The guards didn't breathe. The woman's hands shook, phone still recording, but her voice was gone. As the iron bar sealed shut, Carter disappeared into the glow of his driveway. For the first time, they saw him not as an intruder, but as a man who owned every inch of the world they tried to keep him out of. But the night wasn't done yet, because what came after would prove that power means nothing if silence follows it. The alarms wailed like sirens in a storm, blinding lights slicing through the night as if the house itself were alive, watching, judging. The guards froze, their confidence stripped away with the same authority they had used to strip dignity from the man before them. Mr. Carter stood unmoving in the glare, his expression carved in calm defiance. He had done nothing, yet everything about this moment carried the weight of centuries, of doors closed, of hands raised, of words like, "You don't belong here." The youngest guard reached again, voice trembling. "Sir, please step back." His hand brushed Carter's arm. The instant it happened, the house roared to life. Floodlights flared white-hot, alarms blared louder, and a metallic voice thundered through hidden speakers. Warning: unauthorized contact with the property owner. Security breach recorded. The crowd erupted. Dozens of phones lifted at once, their lenses catching the red and white chaos. Neighbors whispered, horrified and awed. The woman in white stumbled backward, color draining from her face. "He's hacked it," she screamed. "He's dangerous." But no one believed her anymore. The truth was too visible, too undeniable. The system didn't lie. It called him what he was, the owner, the creator, the man who built everything they were standing on. Carter turned slowly, eyes locking on the guards who now stood motionless, badges blinking red. His voice, when he finally spoke, was calm, almost too calm. "You wanted proof. The system just gave it to you." The tallest guard's hand trembled as he held up his dead badge. "It's a malfunction," he muttered weakly, though even he didn't sound convinced. Carter's gaze didn't waver. He stepped closer, and the crowd parted, his tone sharpened, cutting through the air. "You thought I didn't belong because I didn't fit your picture of power. But this," he gestured around him, "this was built by my hands, my mind, my name." The gate lights shifted again, red to white to green, like an unspoken verdict. The system's voice spoke one final time, clear and undeniable. Owner identity confirmed. Security clearance revoked for all personnel. A hush swept through the crowd. The guards' badges dimmed completely. Their radios died, their connection to authorities severed by the very system they'd used to oppress. The woman in white's voice broke, high and desperate. "You can't do this. You don't have that right." Carter met her gaze, and for the first time, his voice carried something heavier than anger, Truth. You spent your life believing people like me should always be on the outside looking in. But tonight, it's your turn to stand there. The gate began to open. Its iron bars moved slowly, deliberately, the sound echoing to the cul-de-sac like a gavel striking down. The crowd gasped as Carter stepped forward, each footstep steady, deliberate, reclaiming what was already his. He crossed the threshold of his own property as the lights dimmed back to calm white, the chaos dissolving into silence. The guard stood behind the line, stripped of authority, faces pale under the glow. Carter turned once more before disappearing into the glow of his driveway. "You want to decide who belongs," he said softly. "Now the house has spoken." And as the gates began to close again, sealing him safely inside, the crowd erupted, not in panic, but in realization. The story unfolding before them wasn't just about one man and one gate. It was about every barrier ever built on fear instead of truth. But what Carter did next wouldn't just end the night. It would redefine what justice looked like when silence finally turned to power.